Hello and welcome to another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. We're at the beautiful Bolesworth Castle in Cheshire again for another Hampson auction, and I've just sort of randomly picked out some of my favourite cars for whatever reason. It could be weird, wonderful, wacky, desirable, would like to take home, all those sort of things. And we start with a very unlikely candidate, this Audi RS3. I remember years ago a friend had one of these, and I was always very impressed with how they went. A small, relatively small to mid-size hatchback, but packs a punch. It's the 5-cylinder, 2.5 litre engine in standard form, around about 360 brake horsepower. But this one is mapped to just over 500. It's done 96,000 miles, but that for a car of this sort of stature and quality is, if it's been looked after, which I think this one patently has because it's in immaculate condition, that's just run in 96,000 miles. There's loads of mileage left in this. It's got the panoramic roof. It's got this very, very in-your-face orangey red paintwork, which is not dissimilar to Rosso Miura. One of the colours that the Lamborghini Miura was available in new. It's a sort of between an orange and a red. This is not quite as brown as Rosso Miura, but it's not far off it. But more to the point, this is a lot of car for the money. It's no reserve. What should it fetch in the real world? 18,000-ish, something like that, with that mileage on it. But still a great car, wonderful package, 4-wheel drive, 500 brake horsepower, everyday practicality. You can go to the supermarket in it. So that's my first car of the day, the Audi RS3. Well, this car is a very important piece of Jaguar history. This is like a bridge between two generations of Jaguar, and for that reason, not only was it made in very low production numbers, which makes it interesting, but also the specification of the car is interesting. This is a Jaguar XK150S roadster. This was the last of the XK series of Jaguars that started off in 1947, 1948. We've got an XK140 at the moment that we're doing an engine rebuild on, which we weren't expecting, but that's ominous noises for you. This car is it's sort of a bridge, because you got the old from the XK120, 1947-48, then the 140. With more performance and a bit more refinement, and then the ultimate edition of that was the XK150, which was the last body-on-frame car that Jaguar actually brought to market. In that respect, it's older world technology, but the reason it's a bridge is because the engine is in the S only, is a triple carburettor engine from the factory. So normally they had 2 SU carbs, and developed in 3.4 litre form about 210 brake horsepower on a good day. By putting their, at the time, ultimate cylinder head design on the engine, which made a big difference gas flow and hence power-wise, and combining it with triple carburettors, this was unique to the S only. It took the power up to 260 brake horsepower, which made this a 135 mile an hour car, which was one of the fastest production cars of the time, sort of 1959-ish. I mean, there were obviously Ferraris and things that could beat it, and Mercedes 300 SL roadsters, which came a bit later, of course, than this. But they developed around about 225 brake horsepower, so they were not as grunty as this. But this is it because of the sort of powerful engine, which is almost an E-Type engine. The very last of these went over to 3.8 litre instead of 3.4. That meant that they were really at the sort of falling over the precipice into the Jaguar E-Type, which, other than the engine, was a totally different car. Chalk and cheese. This from sort of oldie worldy technology to the E-Type, which was sort of off the scale really at the time. But anyway, very interesting car. They made 800 and odd of the 150S roadsters in total, and something like 20 odd right-hand drive. Very rare car. This car is right-hand drive, but bearing in mind the vast majority of Jaguars at the time went to the US, it was like a sponge for Jaguars, the US. They loved them. The majority of them were left-hand drive, and this car actually started life left-hand drive. but has been converted to right-hand drive. But nevertheless, this is a very rare car, very fast for its time, lots of feedback, great thing. One other thing I want to talk about is this sort of raised flute in the middle of the bonnet here, which is about 4 inches wide, 5 inches wide. William Lyons was an extremely pragmatic engineer and extremely clever, and he always made use of as much as he could, which is why Jaguars were so very cheap. They had always been cheap for what they were, Jaguars. Nowhere near as expensive as the Porsche, Mercedes-Benz equivalents. So yeah, anyway, one example. When Jaguar developed the XK150 over the 140, one of the criticisms of the XK140 was the interior room. It was very cramped. So rather than come up with some new tooling, what William Lyons and his guys did was actually use the XK140 bonnet, slice it right down the middle, and then weld in this wider strip here to make the bonnet commensurately wider with the rest of the car. So they didn't have to invest in new body pressings for the bonnet. They just welded in on every one this strip with great expertise, ground the welds down carefully afterwards, and hey presto, you had a wider Jaguar car with a wider bonnet. Very interesting car, this. The one downside with it is it's been converted from left to right-hand drive, but this is still a very interesting piece of Jaguar history. Very rare and a very interesting car to drive. A bit more of a challenge than the E-Type, dare I say it, because older technology doesn't hand as much to you on a plate. You have to work at it. And that is part of the reward of driving this car. It's really not for inexperienced drivers, I would say, but very rewarding in the right hands. Jaguar XK150S Roadster. Well, this is another car that I particularly like in this sale, and again, this is no reserve. This is a Jaguar E-Type V12 Series 3. Couple of interesting and unusual aspects of this car as well. It's finished in this opalescent light grey metallic. I believe this to be the original colour, but I couldn't swear to it, but we're just trying to still have a look at the paperwork. One thing that is interesting about this era of Jaguar is that under British Leyland, or before British Leyland, in the 1960s, Jaguar had some stunning colours. Opalescent green, opalescent grey, opalescent blue, opalescent red, beautiful metallics. It's just stunning colours. And then when we went into the Series 3 type, which came out in 1971, under British Leyland, that wonderful organisation, what happened was their colour palette changed drastically. And 95% of E-Type V12s, you couldn't get metallic paint on, to speak of. You had flat colours like willow green, azure blue, Old English white, Regency red, British racing green, etc., etc. But very few of them were actually specified with a metallic. It was quite hard to get a metallic paint, or opalescent in Jaguar speak, on a Series 3 E-Type. This was one of the exceptions, this colour, opalescent light grey. If this car didn't start life as this colour, it could have done. It is a very, very unusual and interesting colour scheme for an E-Type. This is a particularly lovely example. It's a factory manual as well, which makes it something of a sweet spot. Manual, convertible, silver metallic, V12. It comes from a very good home, this car. It's got a lovely documentation with it. As I say, I'm just looking into whether it started life in this colour or not, but it presents very, very nicely indeed, this car. And again, it's no reserve, no reserve. Your chance to bag a apparently very nicely looked after E-Type V12 Series 3 manual roadster in an unusual and not too shabby colour. Well, from the sublime to the ridiculous, here we have a Messerschmitt bubble car. The two manufacturers of bubble cars were both German. The leading ones, there was the Messerschmitt and the Heinkel, both of course which featured heavily in the Luftwaffe in the Second World War. The Heinkel HK111, the Messerschmitt Bf 109 as the obvious examples. But after the war, they turned their attention In the late 40s and early 50s, people were starting to have a bit of cash in their pocket again. Things were very rough post-war, particularly in Britain, of all places, having supposedly won the war. But the US was racing ahead. It really was. But consumers had money in their pockets, suffice it to say. And they both turned their attentions to these, the bubble cars. And one of the reasons why the Mini came along from British Motor Corporation, it was then, BMC, it was sold as either an Austin or a Morris. But one of the reasons why the Minis came along was because of the threat of the bubble car to the market in the UK. People wanted a small, economical car that was fun and compact but roomy. Sounds like a whole series of contradictions in terms, but that's why the Mini was developed as a direct result of this car. But I mean, it's loads of fun, this car. I've never driven one of these, but there you are. You and your two friends of choice can go out, forget head-on collisions, forget side crash safety protection bars, forget any form of safety whatsoever. This is, we just don't think about things like that. They don't exist, problems like that. What we do have is something that is it a motorcycle? Is it a plane? Is it a four-seater? No, it's none of those things, but it is lots of fun. I just love this. I think you could. This would be a great car to go to the pubs with your two chosen friends. So yeah, the Messerschmitt Mark III bubble car. Well, another car that's caught my eye is this, a Ford Puma Racing, very, very limited edition. The Ford Puma has always, I've always found them very appealing, even when they were new. I never had one, but I know people who did, and they handled like they were on rails, these cars. They were just, it was a period when Ford chassis engineering was actually very good. They went the extra few pounds, and along with the original Ford Focus, developed cars that actually handled and rode superbly. The original Puma was a great car in its own right, very prone to rust, of course, as a lot of modern cars are, but this is something else again. This is another layer of interest. They made 500 of these cars only, Ford. It was a sort of homologation special. It was designed to just push the boundaries of what was available in the original Puma. Is this a collectible car that's going to go up in the future? I think absolutely. Absolutely. This one's been heavily modified. It's got a trick engine in it and various other bits. At some point in the future, I would actually say this is probably, there's going to come a time when it's in this car's interests to return it back to standard. But at the moment, I'm sure it offers smiles per mile deluxe. A very, very interesting car, this. One of 500. Ford originally intended to make 1,000. They ended up making only 500. And it's no reserve, this car, in this auction. Again, I think this is a highly collectible bit of kit. Well, this one also caught my eye. This is a Mercedes-Benz of the generation of R129, between the evergreen 107 of the 70s and 80s and the model afterwards, the R230, which is, of course, my trusted old friend, my silver with red leather interior SL 500. But these are, there is no such thing as a bad Mercedes SL, really. These have been a sleeper for a few years now. In terms of the depreciation curve, they've definitely plateaued out, and I think remarkable examples are a good place if you're looking for something to invest in, which isn't going to have the shirt off your back, but you can still enjoy a nice car to take out on high days and holidays. This is sort of in that area, I would say. This is a long ownership car, and it's only done 35,000 miles. It's in this very attractive colour scheme, and the interior, the whole car, is very, very clean, actually. And it's no reserve, this car. So if whatever it sells for, it sells for. It's got the factory hard top, which comes off at the push of a button, and then it needs an extremely helpful and strong assistant to get it over the back of the car. But who drives one of these with the hard top on these days? It's got a soft top just waiting to plug the gap. in the back there. And of course, these are a very safe car as well. If you are concerned about driving your classic car in safety, this is a very safe car. It's got the pop-up rollover hoop in the back, which pops up in a fraction of a second, and that was demonstrated, much to Mercedes-Benz's delight, when the car first came out in 1989, 1990. A Japanese gentleman was driving one of these, and he went over the edge of a cliff in one, and the rollover bar, dunk, popped up in an instant and actually saved him and I think his passenger's life, if I got that story correct at the time. In other words, a tick for Mercedes and their technology. But it's just, yeah, it's a very, very tidy car, this. What's it going to go for? That's a very good question. But yeah, sort of an all-round classic car motoring experience. I would say this is a pretty good bet, really. Well, that concludes another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop video. Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe, and if you are bidding, good luck, and we'll be back with something else very soon.